What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Hopefully you had a great weekend, had a good start to your week, and we're here to talk a little football because Adam Schefter had some comments today with McAfee that I wanted to dive into in regards to Christian Wilkins and why I think this situation serves as an example to every GM, including the Raiders, who were not a part of signing this contract in John Spytek, why you got to be very careful when it comes to high-priced free agents in 2025. We're going to look at some other big contracts that were just signed, I think, that are on the opposite end of the spectrum when you see this Wilkins situation. And then we'll just talk a couple quarterback situations. Some, McVay, Matt Stafford, some comments. He had to walk back. Now Matt Stafford is week to week, which we're not even into August yet, but never ideal when you got a guy with a lot of tread on those tires who's just not even able to pass in training camp. I did see, we'll dive into that situation. Another situation that's a little more positive because this guy's healthy. Baker Mayfield discussed an amended contract, and I think he serves as a great example of a guy who just kind of gets it at this point in time. And then why training camp really starts this week. Last week was like the introduction. This week is buckle up, pads are on, and we start separating, especially with younger players or even older veterans that are trending the wrong way. We get a lot more information in terms of front offices and coaches, how they make their decisions over these next couple weeks. The evaluation process is really, really important. So before we talk some football, though, I got to tell you about my friends, my partners, and the official ticketing app of this podcast, Gametime, best in the business. What do you guys want to do? Do you want to get out of that house? Do you want to go enjoy yourself? We got concerts in full swing right now. We have comedy shows all over the country. Go out and get yourself, a couple laughs. Go enjoy yourself. But most importantly, we're obviously down the home stretch of baseball. See, the Guardians are getting into a little trouble. But if you want to go to a baseball game, and obviously football, college, pro. Last year, I went to the Texas-Oklahoma game because of these guys. I've gone to concerts. I've gone to baseball games. I've gone to basketball games. Gametime, best in the business. It does not get any better. So do you want to go to one of these events? Do you want to go enjoy yourself? I cannot recommend it enough. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Gametime app. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Let's dive into the Christian Wilkins situation. Now, first and foremost, I'm not a contract negotiator. I'm not an arbitrator. I don't know how this thing will play out when the NFL, the NFLPA, which obviously has some issues, Wilkins, the Raiders, they all get involved fighting over the money and the semantics and the details over what you owe me and what I don't owe you. Obviously, the Raiders don't want to pay this player who got well over $80 million last year in guaranteed money, as high as you will see a unrestricted free agent sign for. Honestly, non-quarterback, over the last several years, it has to be the most money, right? A unrestricted free agent got on the open market. Now, typically, I would say not even typically, good high-end defensive linemen, whether they're defensive tackles or pass rushers, do not hit after their rookie contract if they are elite players, big-time players, the open market. That does not happen. So overall, I think this is a very good lesson. Guards hit the open market. Linebackers hit the open market. Hell, second wide receivers sometimes hit the open market. Tight ends can hit the open market. But typically, awesome tackles and awesome defensive linemen never hit the unrestricted free agent market in their mid-20s. Why? That's not how the NFL works. And I think this serves as a good example. Tom Telesco is currently on the street. I don't blame him for signing this contract, right? But there was a reason he was available. We can say a lot about the Miami Dolphins, and I don't think they're well run. You got to give them credit on this one. They could have franchised him. They could have extended him, and they said, we're out of the Christian Wilkins business. Now, obviously, there was an injury that took part to help create this weird situation. If he was fully healthy and had a good year, who knows? I doubt they're cutting him. But he gets injured. He's not able to participate. And clearly, they were very uncomfortable with being in business with this player. Because that, when you're paying a guy this type money, like the Raiders like being in business with Max Crosby, right? The 49ers like being in business with George Kittle and Fred Warner. The Chargers like being in business with Justin Herbert and Rashawn Slater and Derwin James. The Raiders and John Spytek and Pete Carroll, and listen, I said this last week, this would have been a difficult move for John Spytek if John Middlekauff or Bill Middlekauff or James Middlekauff was the first time head coach and the coach of the Raiders that Spytek had hired this offseason. It becomes a lot, you like how I just dropped different names with my last name? It became a lot easier to do business this way when Pete Carroll goes, I've been coaching this league for decades. I've won a Super Bowl. Look at my resume. I know what I'm doing. I've also been in some weird situations with contracts with guys I've drafted, guys whose numbers will be retired by the Seattle Seahawks. We can handle this. But this guy's not going to be on the team anymore. Now, Schefter had some comments today that were kind of funny. I mean, in a way. I'm just going to read it to you. I'm sure many of you have either seen the clips or read some headlines over what happened, but I just want to hammer this home so we're all on the same page. This was an article that Schefter tweeted out. Christian Wilkins, who was released by the Raiders, kissed a fellow player on the head, and the teammate took offense to it, a source told Adam Schefter. The incident was not the sole reason that Wilkins was cut, sources say. Wilkins has been recovering from a Jones fracture while he suffered in his left foot last October. Last week's incident, this obviously the kissing incident happened a week ago, happened inside the Raiders locker room. One source told ESPN.com that the interaction was playful, but the teammate did not see it that way. It's not known what the fellow player did following the incident. A complaint was filed to the Raiders' HR department, which investigated the incident, a source told Schefter. The Raiders, through a team spokesman, have declined to comment. When you are getting to business with people in free agency, especially nowadays where the cap is huge, the money for these guys that are available, you have to pay extra because the supply and demand on the open market, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Jalen Carter, Nick Bosa, those type guys in their prime are never available. So the guys that are available, Christian Wilkins, always get probably 20, 30% more on the open market than they would have got if they just would have got an extension with the team. But they are available for a reason. Their team didn't want them. There's a reason typically you date someone before you marry them. It's a pretty big commitment. And in free agency, now the money that is on the line, it's an enormous commitment to make to a player like this. And clearly, this administration wanted no part of it. Now, we will see how it plays out with the money, with the dead cap, and obviously there is some stuff in flux. But this is a good example that John Spytek and especially Pete Carroll, who, guess what, the defense and physicality and the defensive line and the defensive backfield, which are intertwined, or his baby, couldn't stand this guy. Who knows, and maybe we will get more information with this kissing incident in the locker room. But here's what I know. The players on the team and the head coach, who probably is going to be a Hall of Famer one day, didn't want to look at this guy anymore. And this is why, right, when you talk about extending guys, coaches come and go. Administrations come and go. Look at some of these guys that just got extended. Cortland Sutton, Rashawn Slater. They have new coaches. They have new GMs from the guys that actually picked them coming out of college. But there are still people in that infrastructure, specifically the owner, who through the transition has been around a guy and go, I like this guy. I want to be in business with this individual. And obviously, depending on the position you play, depends on how much money you are arguing for and they're willing to pay you. But people have no problem paying guys that are good guys. that are trustworthy guys. Obviously, you've got to be a good player, but that I feel comfortable with. And clearly, the Raiders don't feel comfortable with this player and couldn't get him to pack his bags fast enough. And I think this move becomes a lot easier when you got Pete Carroll as the poster child for your organization. So it would have been a very difficult thing for a guy like Liam Cohen to do. We would have been like, does this guy know what he's doing? But when Pete Carroll does it, no one thinks it's weird at all. And then this information comes out. It's like, yeah, the team doesn't even like the guy. So let this be a warning. When you are going to get into business with people in free agency, it's extremely risky. There is a reason that guy is on the open market. Because unlike some sports, in baseball, maybe the team doesn't have the money. The A's, the Rays, they're never going to pay certain guys. In basketball, if I have a couple max guys now with these new rules, I can't sign you. I have to let you go. In football, we can always manipulate the cap. If I want you, I can keep you. And typically teams want defensive linemen, especially ones they draft. And the Dolphins said, I'm out. And then Pete Carroll, how many months have they even been together now? 3 or 4, said, I'm out. Pack your shit and get out of my locker room. Pro golfers drive for show and putt for some dough. And the easiest way to make you some dough, betting on this week's tournament at DraftKings Sportsbook. From the opening round, Championship Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with live betting, player props, and so much more. If you've never bet on golfers before, it's easy. You can take them to win, you can take them to top 10, you can take them to top 20. Some guys this week I like. We're making the push toward the FedEx playoffs. Ricky Fowler has been playing good golf. Hammer him to top 20. Max Homa, another guy who is trending, top 20. Matt Fitzpatrick, also playing really well. If you want to get a little more aggressive, top 10. Jake Knapp as well. Just had a good week at the 3M. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Speaking of guys that I want you to make sure you buy a house in this area, Rashawn Slater, the star tackle for the Chargers, gets an enormous extension. These tackles, these pass rushers aren't quite quarterbacks, but you're getting guys that are encroaching on 100 plus. I mean, some of these pass rushers have flown by $100+ million. I think we will see pretty quickly a offensive tackle get $100+ million in guarantees. And, you know, this is a good example. Jim Harbaugh did not draft this player. Jim Harbaugh did not pick this player. But Jim Harbaugh values offensive line as much, if not more, than any coach in the NFL. He gave his reasoning last year when they drafted Joe Alt. And they said, why didn't you pick a wide receiver? He said, because I believe offensive linemen are weapons. And they are the tip of the spear. And the spear in this offense and in Jim Harbaugh's offense that has always been predicated on the run starts with the line of scrimmage. So they pay their guy. They got Alt. They're probably going to have one of, if not the best tackle combination in the league. And listen, I think a lot of people are high on the Chargers, rightfully so. Cortland Sutton. Speaking about guys, again, when you're a new coach, Aaron Glenn, Liam Cohen, Schottenheimer doesn't really count because Jerry does whatever he wants. But you can go around the league, get these new guys. A good coach gives everyone a fresh start, but is open-minded to anything. I'll keep this guy if it's worth it, or I'll get rid of this guy if it's not, regardless how good you are, how many Pro Bowls you made, or how many Pro Bowls you've never sniffed. And I think Sean Payton went into this like, hey, we're open-minded here. Russell Wilson, I'm going to give you opportunity. Couldn't get rid of that guy fast enough. Cortland Sutton, you thought, is this guy long for the Denver Broncos? And then they get a quarterback. He gets 81 catches. He has 8 touchdowns. He has over 1,000 yards receiving. Boom. Gets a big extension. And when you're an offensive weapon, tight end, running back, wide receiver, and your head coach is the play caller, and you have a young quarterback that clearly likes you and relies on you, you're going to have some job security. Just like Slater. What does he do? He blocks the blind side of a $200 million quarterback. What does Sutton do? Is a safety valve for what I think Sean Payton hopes becomes the franchise. So we see guys like Christian Wilkins. I don't care how much we gave you, get out of here. And then we see other guys. We want you to be a part of this as we move forward. So a lot of action so far uh, in terms of money changing hands or maybe not changing hands in the AFC West. I saw a comment probably within the last week, and it was like a clip that came up on, I think, my Instagram feed of Sean McVay calling Jimmy Garoppolo the best backup quarterback in the NFL. And I'll be honest, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, shit, it's coaches like gassing up their own guy. He likes Jimmy. Jimmy's been with the team now a couple years. Jimmy's been a guy who's had a lot of success against him. Likable guy. Players, teammates, people have always really liked Jimmy. Now, is he the best backup quarterback in the league? I think if we went around the league, it's a pretty low bar. But yeah, in terms of resume, probably one of the better ones. I think looking back, why he said that is because he knows there's a decent chance he's going to have to play some games this year with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I didn't realize that when he said that because a couple days ago, Sean McVay has to come back to the podium and say, listen, guys, I said that Matt Stafford was going to be back sooner than later, probably this week. I was wrong. We're taking him now, week to week. Like, obviously, day to day could be 2 weeks. Day to day could be a month. But day to day sounds a lot better than week to week because you're 3 weeks away from being out the entire month. So when I see Matt Stafford, who played in the league forever, one of the toughest dudes in the entire league, in terms of like, is it make or break July 28th, Matt Stafford practicing? Of course not. I think the scary thing with this is when there are injuries like soreness. When I see that, regardless of what area is sore, I go, that can be something that just doesn't go away. And then I see back soreness. I like the Rams, and I think they're going to be pretty damn good this year. But I'll promise you this. If Matt Stafford at any point has to miss significant time, I'm out on them. That team that went toe-to-toe with the Eagles, a big reason why, Matt freaking Stafford. I promise you, at this point in time in his career, at 33 years old, it will not be Jimmy Garoppolo. I think there are some similarities with Jimmy Garoppolo as there was with Derek Carr. You have a couple major injuries, which Jimmy has had, and you're never quite the same. Because that comfortability in the pocket, and I would say Jimmy was never the most comfortable individual in the pocket, completely goes away. And you can get a little, what they would say in, NFL front offices or NFL coaching staffs, a little gun shy. And again, I understand why Sean McVay is hyping this guy up because there's a decent chance he might need him at some point this year. But I know this, if any of this back stuff creeps into the season at any point and Matt Stafford had to miss significant time, even with an easier schedule, I do not like the Rams. Are you interested in investing in Bitcoin and not sure how to get started? Well, with the Gemini credit card, a card that I've been using now for a couple months, you can dip your toes into the Bitcoin world without even trying. You just spend like you normally do. I go to the gas station, I use it. I go to the grocery store, I use it. I take my wife out, I use it. And I instantly earn up to 4% back in Bitcoin or one of the over 50 other cryptos straight to your account you can choose. There's no annual fee. And the Gemini credit card is a no-brainer. I love it. I use it all the time. And right now, you can grab a $200 Bitcoin intro bonus. So just go to Gemini.com/John to learn more and start earning today. Terms apply. Again, you go to Gemini.com/John and start building your Bitcoin stash now. Terms apply. The Gemini credit card is issued by WebBank, and in order to qualify for the intro $200 crypto bonus, your application must be approved by June 30th, 2025, and spend $3,000 in your first 90 days. Terms apply. Some exclusions apply to instant rewards in which rewards are deposited when the transaction posts. This content is not investment advice, and trading crypto involves risk. For more details on rates, fees, and other Gemini credit card terms, see rates and fees. Go to Gemini.com/John to learn more and start earning today. Baker Mayfield. When you're a quarterback, hell, when you're a star player in the NFL, at a position player, and obviously the quarterback, you are in business with the team. You should view it as a partnership, not like LeBron did forever. Patrick Mahomes does not approach his relationship with Brett Veach, the Hunt family, and Andy Reid like some of these NBA star players, becomes very adversarial, right? I'm in charge, you're not, you listen to me, which would be easy for them to do because the Chiefs could not operate with him without him, and they know that. But when you show we will do whatever it takes, we got your back, we are we want to be in the Patrick Mahomes business, and being in the business with a star quarterback like Lamar, like Josh Allen, like Joe Burrow means helping you out in every way possible. And Baker Mayfield had some comments to Pete Prisco of CBS about his situation. He's obviously relative to a guy throwing 40 plus touchdowns, not making that much money. He signed a 3-year, $100 million contract. And he mentioned that his contract was changed to where he got a bunch of guaranteed money in 2026. And even though that guaranteed money still means he's an underpaid quarterback relative to guys at his position who he's much better than, he wants to be in business with Tampa. He wants to play there. And I think it's easy for a guy, just like any human being, when you've seen some shit, through experience, through adversity, and through struggles, helps you realize, I got it pretty good now. I don't want to ever risk going back to what happened. Look at Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is like, I got to get the most money humanly possible every fucking time. Okay, Kirk, welcome to the Atlanta Falcons. Godspeed, homie. How'd that go? And I think Baker, and obviously Kirk, I'm not saying he's not responsible for poor play, but as he said the other day, if I would have known, I would have stayed with the Minnesota Vikings, even if it would have been for less money. It's easy to say now, but you've never thought that way, and you've never operated that way. And when you have a bunch of money, and Baker does at this point in time, and if he keeps playing well, he's going to have a bunch more. You can't always make your decisions based on who's going to pay me the most. Because sometimes that decision leads to problems in the NFL, leads to not playing well, leads to losing. And I think Baker Mayfield at this point in time in his career has a pretty good understanding of like Jason Light building this team, the infrastructure we have, the type of guys we have on this team, kind of know what we're doing around here. They obviously like me. I like being here. And even if in a year they may not offer me $200 million, and that number is $175 million. This is where I want to be. Because unlike most positions, even the guaranteed money for a quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa is a good example, right? He got this huge contract, well over $200 million. But his guaranteed number, I think, was like 150 or 160. If Tua just plays, Tua's going to see every penny of his contract. I saw it with Jimmy Garoppolo when he signed up for $125 million. Like 70 of it was guaranteed. Guess what? He saw every penny. Because all these other positions, they try to get rid of you quickly as possible. At quarterback, if you are just pretty solid, you typically stay. And last but not least, before we get out of here, I think I'm going to do a Go Low Happy Gilmore review. I watched it on Sunday night, so we'll talk about that. No spoiler alerts today, but I recommend seeing that because I'm gonna give my full thoughts on tomorrow's podcast. One thing that differentiates football from any other sport / activity is that you can't actually play it unless there are literally coaches, referees, and pads. Every other sport, I could get into the box against whoever is the starting pitcher and simulate an at bat. I could have an umpire behind us, and I don't even need people in the infield or outfield. We can just simulate ABs, right? In basketball, I get 9 other people, if I'm an NBA player or a college player, and we can legitimately play a game. In golf and tennis, like you can just play other people, the actual rules, and have a real match like you would at Wimbledon, like you would at the U.S. Open. You can play the same course. You can play the same court. Football, you have all these practices in the spring and then even at the start of training camp that are nothing like the actual sport because the pads aren't on. And any coach or GM will tell you, it's really, really hard to evaluate our offensive linemen, our running backs, even our linebackers. Because it's one thing to run fit when everyone's in shorts and T-shirts. What about when people are running full speed and we're tackling to the ground? Can you actually bring that guy to the ground? I don't know. We're going to find out. And in football, most guys that have years upon years of tape, you feel pretty confident, right? If the guy's still moving at the same speed in shorts and a t-shirt, you go, he can still play at a high level. We have a body of work. But there are a lot of guys, returning young players that might have been on the practice squad, and then all the guys that you just drafted, you don't truly know. You can be bullish on a guy, being like, God, I think this guy's gonna be pretty freaking good. He's flying around. Then the pads come on, and it's like, a little overwhelmed. And listen, as time goes on, maybe he gets more comfortable. No one's judging you purely on the first day of pads in training camp, but it does separate players. And it does go from a place where a team can be really high on a player based on the offseason activities and the way he came into shape in training camp. And then the pads come on, and a week goes by, and you go, this guy's not going to be able to help us out this year. And it can work on the flip side of, hey, this guy was on our practice squad last year. We didn't have high hopes, but he's kicking ass and taking names right now. He knows the offense. He knows the defense. He's playing fast. This guy, could he start? And you start repping in really quick. And it's the best part of training camp by far. Now, ideally, no one gets injured. We know that's kind of impossible. We've seen a bunch of guys get injured so far. But I think it is a time for NFL front offices when the practice tape really, really matters. And the evaluations with your scouting department, with your coaching staff, anyone that's watched Hard Knocks over the years, they don't show it as much anymore, but back in the day, those big conference rooms where the coaching staff and maybe a GM and assistant GM are all sitting at, and people on the outside, the younger coaches and some of the younger scouts, and they're just evaluating people. Because the huge part of football right now, and this is going to happen in college. College is a little different because you don't have any preseason games. So you start, if you're Texas or Ohio State or some of these programs, you're a week in, you start kind of implementing some of the game plan. But for the first couple weeks of an NFL training camp when the pads come on, it's really all about evaluation. How you handle the scheme, how you handle the information, and what you look like versus, your own team. It's not a lot of getting ready for week one. It's purely evaluating the roster. And, that goes for veteran players too. God, this guy's slipping. This guy isn't quite what he once was. And once you start having those thoughts, you go, listen, his money this year is not guaranteed. So will we pay this guy $12 million? If he makes your opening day roster, his salary, if he's a vested veteran, his salary becomes guaranteed. So you have to think twice, do we cut him and just go with the 6-rounder who might be 85% as good as this guy, but he only cost us $1 million, and in 2 years he might be even with the guy. And these are decisions that start really kind of materializing, in these meeting rooms and in people's heads, and these conversations start happening right now. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to come to fruition, and maybe that veteran guy, it's hey, we still feel good about this guy. Maybe the position coach is arguing for him. Maybe the coordinator's arguing for him. Maybe the head coach is arguing against him. So you get all these different factions, which is good, which is healthy. You don't want everyone on the same page right now. You want everyone bringing their opinions. But once you start getting close to that cut-down date, there's going to be a decision made, and everyone's got to be on the same page. But for the next couple weeks, and the Chargers and Lions, because they got to camp earlier, they've been in pads for a while. So these conversations have been happening with those teams for a little longer. Now, both those two teams, especially the Lions, are a little more established of a roster. But some of these teams, the 49ers have 8 spots open. For the last 4 or 5 years, the 49ers have had 1 starting spot maybe open. And it's like anything in the NFL. Rosters churn, you get to a point where a lot of guys leave, and boom. Eagles are a good example. Not as many openings. A couple on defense, really none on offense. Maybe one position. Some of these teams, hell, the Chiefs, the Bills, you might get 3 or 4. But it's not even just the starters, because if the starting spot's open and the backup wins the job, well, now who's the backup? So you kind of get this domino effect, which, basically you get up early in the morning, you eat breakfast, you go to practice, you evaluate that practice film, you go to meetings, you keep evaluating that practice film, and you're just kind of doing that because there's no other film to evaluate. There are no preseason games yet. There's obviously just nothing else going on. So you're kind of keeping tabs with the league if you're a GM or an assistant GM, but your number one job right now The number one thing you have to do with your head coach and your coaching staff is nail the evaluation of your own team. And listen, some of it's hard. Some of these decisions might be a coin flip, and you just pray to God that you don't keep the guy, and the guy that you let go goes on somewhere else, and then a couple years later he's like a high end player, and the guy that you kept is not even on your team. But that's the risk you take, and it's why the more information you have, hopefully the better decision you can make. But these are fun times. These are tense times. These are just there's a lot of stress. I mean, when you have a job that's like, hey, this job is available, and you realize like if someone loses this job, especially if it's the veteran, he's not going to be on this team anymore. So these guys aren't idiots. You know, if you've been in the league long enough, you realize like if I don't win this starting job, I'm going to get cut because they're not going to pay me $7 million to be the backup guard. It's just not going to happen. Buckle up. If you're a fan, you know, you're reading all these articles about these competitions. It's as real as can be.